what I think we need to do literally, like on a political level, is we need to recognize that our government is not capable of rising to the challenges facing us. For a long time now, people on all sides of every fucking political spectrum have been, in their own way, pointing to failures of government or failures of private institutions and saying, look, they're broken. Look, they're broken. It's all their fault. This institution isn't functioning correctly, therefore all of our problems are their fault. Okay? The first part, I'm with you on. Our government is broken. Our corporations are running amok. I wouldn't say they're broken, because I think it's in their inherent nature to do what they're doing. They're just doing what they do, and they're not being contained. But being allowed to do whatever they want to do is what a corporation looks like when it's broken. They have to be constrained. They do work okay. And I do think that, other changes have to happen. But, yeah, just sticking with a kind of a more Keynesian model, because we're not ready for socialism yet. I mean, I don't care what it's called. I just want it to work. And I don't think we're going to be able to go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat. And I think before we can even think about making steps to address kind of the fundamental way our economy and our society is structured, we have to first contain the corporations in moneyed interests that they represent, or rather moneyed interests that represent them, the think tanks and the lobbying efforts. And we got to get there. They shouldn't be allowed to influence government. That's why government is broken. Government is broken because of them. So you can point to the fact that government's broken, and you could say it's all their fault, but it's not going to ever change anything until you fix what it was that broke them. You can keep replacing them. You can swap them out with different parts. But isn't it interesting how in every case they end up broken? It's not ever just waiting, and the few that aren't enough, and just trying to get enough. It's just a doomed strategy to try to replace enough of them so that at any given moment in time, there's enough of them that aren't broken that can actually get something passed to make a change. That's not going to happen. Like every time there's an election, we might be able to swap out a few, and that's great, and we got a little bit closer. But guess what? Every time that, as we go forward in time, the people they start to break. They break at a fairly predictable rate. So it's doomed. It's not going to happen. We have to address the thing that's breaking them. Why are they getting broken? It's the moneyed interests that represent them. I mean, they want to stay in power. They need election funds. They also sometimes, in many cases, are thinking about what they're going to do afterwards or how they're going to retire, blah, 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 blah. All of those problems can be solved by moneyed interests in varying ways. So they have this, they have to serve them. They might not be fully aware that that's what they're doing. They might not, I don't know how explicit the arrangements are. Some probably are very explicit, and some, maybe not. I don't know. But there's an implicit understanding, I would think, at the least, that, with the check that they just got comes expectations. And if they don't live up to them, they're not going to get another check. Period. That might be all it is. It doesn't have to be explicit. And that's, it's not even illegal. It's not even illegal at that, if they keep it to that. It's not a conspiracy theory. It just makes sense. Of course. So until we make it illegal, until we do make it illegal for them to receive just basically blank checks from, no, that cannot happen. Further, I think they should not be allowed to go back to the private sector, frankly. Once you serve in Congress, you should just be, you should have a retirement package that you get. I don't know. Maybe they could have certain jobs in the private sector, but like they can't be allowed to just, oh, suddenly they're a VP, in some, no, come on. No. It just looks all kind of, at the very least, it needs to be like, like really, really discouraged. Like, oh God, that's gross. Like, like, yeah, you can do it, I guess, but don't. I mean, there's plenty of positions that someone can do that's still public. I don't know, some local government position, wherever they live, if they're still quite young. Like if they could do something else in politics that isn't elected, but needs to be done, and they should have a retirement package too. I mean, it's not so many people that get elected to Congress that we can't afford to take care of them. I think we can manage it. There's only a few hundred of them, for fuck's sake. We can look after them. Okay, it's a public service, and we should look after them. And in that case, they won't have to try to, scramble for, what am I going to do if I don't get elected? Oh no! Offers from the private sector won't look so appealing in that case. They won't be so easy to buy. I think it'll be pretty hard to make it impossible to buy them. And, there's always going to be people that are more greedy than others, and there's other changes, but that at the very least, those are the things that need to be addressed. And to do that they're never going to pass an amendment that permanently and radically reforms campaign financing or in everything else I just mentioned. They're never going to do that. We can never expect them to. So why don't we dust off the old Constitution, take it out, and actually practice some of the powers that we have? We can sit here and argue about who is to blame, but it seems insane to expect them to do something different. Like, it's just not gonna happen. So the only thing I should be hearing from people is different strategies in order to convene a national convention to pass an amendment, to propose an amendment, to be ratified. That should be what everyone's talking about. That should be the only thing people are talking about until it happens. And it's not a left or right thing. If we choose as a focus for an amendment, if we choose a topic that's not partisan, I mean, I think campaign financing isn't that partisan. It shouldn't be. That might be a perfectly reasonable thing just to run with right from the start. I don't know. And if it doesn't seem to be enough, it doesn't have enough emotional appeal to it to get 2/3 of the states to call for, well, then something that does, that everyone agrees to, but for some reason Congress isn't doing, like healthcare or the drug war. Those would be two that I think enjoy, 70+% support among the populace, but for some reason not the same amount of support in Congress. So that would be a massive demonstration of our ability to circumvent them. It'd be very empowering. I think it needs to happen. We need to discuss strategies on. It's never been done. We've never done this, but they had enough foresight. Love them or hate them. Our forefathers, founding fucking fathers, whatever the fuck, they had enough foresight to see a time when they themselves might become the tyrants that they were so terrified of. They just fought a war trying to get away from living under a tyrant. And so, there's not a lot. The Constitution is not that complicated. The thing that they clearly all agreed about was that tyranny was bad, and they were afraid of a situation in which there'd be another tyrannical government running amok. And what that might have looked like to each of them was probably different. But anyway, they did write in a provision for the government itself to be circumvented by the states. I think it's time to try that out. Why haven't we ever even tried? We haven't even tried. Before there's a revolution, and we can stop all LARPing about revolution, okay? That's not going to go well, and it's going to drag the whole world down with us. We have 12 fleet carriers. What are you going to do about what? Your AR-15 isn't going to do anything against, an M1A1 Abrams battle tank. Chobham armor? Chobham? Can your AR-15 pierce Chobham? I think that's how you pronounce it. Just look into it. It can't. We're not going to fucking overthrow the government. Okay? But we don't have to. It's insane. Why would we? There's a provision right there. It's written into the Constitution. We are empowered with the ability to circumvent them. We can amend the Constitution in any way we want. So it's insane to even talk about revolution. If you have enough support for a revolution that might win, more than half the country, you would have to have a lot more than half, right? For that to be successful, right? Well, if you have that much support, you can just amend the Constitution without the approval of Congress. You don't need it. So I don't understand why people are even talking about revolution. It's insane. And why isn't anyone talking about national conventions to amend the Constitution instead? Maybe because we've never done it. I think it would be very empowering if we do, and it succeeds. And I think it would make it much easier to do the second time. There's not a reason why it should be hard. It shouldn't require massive amounts of money or cap. Like, why? It's just a decision. It's just a thing we have to decide to do. It's all organizational. Yeah, I mean, I get that there would have to be advertising. I mean, there's going to be costs. But instead of dumping your money into some doomed campaign, just in this, fucking hopeless struggle to, well, maybe we can get one more progressive in. We can swap out this person with this person, and that's what we got to do. We got to just do the work. Just get there, local, and build up the, grassroots. You just got to, okay, all right, huffing and puffing and huffing and puffing and climbing that hill, and climbing that hill. And meanwhile, every time you get a success and you manage to get one more in, two have fallen out. And that's insane. It's not ever going to we're never going to get there. It's like Sisyphus. You're like pushing that ball up and you're pushing that ball up. Oh, God. And you get up there and it just rolls back down. And then you go back down and you got to get the ball and you got to push it back up. It's crazy. What are we doing? We don't have to do it that way. There's a better way. There has to be. We have to look at why it keeps rolling back down. Why is it that by the time we get the ball up there, suddenly someone that used to be progressive is now suddenly, meh. I think we should listen to the Republicans more. I think, no, come on. We all know why they're doing that. They've gotten corrupted. Power corrupts. It does so at a pretty predictable rate. It's not, you can't set a clock to it, but we're never gonna, the rate that we're able to get in fresh progressives is never gonna surpass the rate that the people are corrupted by power. Unless we manage, just like a fluke, we manage to get like a whole shit ton of them in at once. I mean, there is, momentum can happen. It's a thing. And it's not an impossible task. And we shouldn't give up on it. But there's too much writing on it. We can't expect it. It'd be great if it worked out that way. It'd be fantastic. But I think it'd be naive to just put all our eggs in that basket. And there's too much writing on it. Climate catastrophe is, we're in serious trouble. Even if we manage to just, all the ducks line up and we manage to, amend the Constitution and start, if we do all the things we need to do, Like, we're still going to be contending with some serious fucking problems. And we don't have time. Our time's up. The scientists have been telling us this for a long time. Time is up. Our country has demonstrated that it's not capable of handling even minor, relatively minor catastrophes. I wouldn't even say it's a catastrophe. COVID was bad. But it's going to get a lot worse than that. Are you kidding? Like, it's coming. There's going to be more. There's going to be worse ones. There's going to be bigger disasters. There's going to be more diseases. There's going to be wars. And they're practically inviting all four horsemen of the apocalypse over for breakfast. I mean, they're puffing their chests and posturing over Ukraine. They're not going to do what needs to be done. We have to recognize it, and we need to start taking steps to do it ourselves. We're going to have a certain percentage of bipartisan support. People are probably perceiving that to be the biggest hang-up. I don't think it is. There are a lot of issues that are not partisan. Not at their core. They are among Congress, though. And even though consistently, time after time, people are on surveys and, whenever people have a chance to express how they feel about the war on drugs or healthcare and what have you, it's clear that there's a lot more support for these things. Everyone's just assuming that because our leaders are split on it, that will be too. I think it's the only idea we have. And it's too important to quibble about what side proposes the idea, like whose platform it's going to be part of. Who cares? And the saying that it's amazing the things you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. Like, there's a real truth to that. And we could weaponize the narcissism and arrogance of the right, and get some stuff done, and some stuff that they would actually want done too, if only it was their idea. And even if it's not a national commitment, but just for anything. Because a lot of progressive ideas are things that people on the right want too. In many cases, they just don't know it yet. In some cases, they do. I think they actually do, and surveys have pointed out. I mean, like healthcare, for example. I don't really see a lot of people, just people, not pundits, not people that have some skin in the game in terms of who's influencing them, who's paying them. But yeah, just regular people. I don't know any conservatives that would just turn down free healthcare. They'll vote against their own interests, though, if it's the other side proposing the idea. They do so all the time. And so if we're going to get, any kind of bipartisan support, I think that might, maybe I'm wrong and this is all conjecture, but I think that would be a phenomenon less likely to happen on the left. I think the left would be more, I don't know. I mean, I don't give a shit where the idea comes from, personally. I suspect that a lot of other people on the left would agree that as long as the idea gets passed, as long as it goes forward, who cares who takes the credit? We really need to let the right propose the idea, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, and that's something I'm open to. I don't really care. I don't think it should be me, that's for damn sure. I don't have a platform, first of all. It should be someone with a platform, because they will have the hardest part of the whole situation already solved. at least as far as getting the ball started, the ball rolling, getting a discussion going. That might not be the hardest part. Yeah. But I think our best chances, I mean, can you imagine if Tucker Carlson felt like it was his idea? And if it was an issue that he agreed to, that he agrees about, I don't know what that might be, and that might be a tall order. Tucker Carlson is a raving lunatic. Maybe Joe Rogan. Someone could just plant the kernel in the seed, and just hint at it. If we strongly hint in the right way, they might start talking about it, and it'll seem like it's their idea. He could do with some saving of face right about now, and I'm sure he would love anything to talk about other than justifying why he has crackpots on his show to just spout their nonsense nonstop for an hour without anyone, in the room capable of mounting a, reasonable counter argument, or, understanding what an impact factor is and like how studies work. Maybe if we had like 12 people committed to the task and we just flooded the internet, like forums and kind of like bots, but not bots. Or maybe with bots. I don't know, chat bots. I don't know. I don't really want it to turn into like a... But if the message is just hammered enough, and we could create the impression that there's a lot more people saying it than there actually is. And it's the thing about the internet, like you can just create 1,000 different accounts. And all it takes is time. It would help to have gather up 20. I mean, imagine what 100 people could do, even. But even 10 committed people to just spending like a whole day, maybe even or more realistically, a couple dozen people spending an hour a day, or a couple 15-minute chunks of every day. Dropping comments in, on videos or in chat rooms or in forums, posting in forums, Twitter, whatever. I don't fucking know. Whatever the kids think is cool these days. Just a thought. But if I linked you to this, and you're listening to this, and you think it's a good idea, whatever you think will have the best probability of it succeeding to catch on, then do that.